Hello, it's Holger Mueller here from Constellation Research, talking to Rob O'Brien from ITV. I loved ITV because I know going to the UK in the 90s and there were not enough channel. I was lucky enough in Germany to live in one of the cable pilot project areas. We had 20 channels, unbelievable at the time. The third one was always ITV.
Wow, great.
Yeah, that was good to see.
All the way out there, wow.
Yeah, so we're talking about the changes into TV programming, right? Through the 70s, 80s and 90s with a special dedication to which favorite show?
Yes, some great shows. We had Strike It Rich, Barrymore. We had, we had Bullseye, a great entertainment show of that era.
Okay.
But I think we're best known, throughout our kind of heritage and our lineage for our soaps. So Coronation Street, the biggest soap in the UK. Emmerdale, a massive brand for us, and ITV also been on for a long, long time.
That's
in
great.
That territory.
But people know ITV from the TV. In front of the scenes, right? Behind the scenes, there's a lot of work and heavy lifting, shifting, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about what you guys have been doing with Zoho, specifically, right? Tell me a little bit, when did your relationship with Zoho start?
Well, it started a few years ago. So a while ago within ITV, we needed something to do some analytics. So we used creator analytics to create some sort of very bespoke reports. And we're talking 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Since then, we recognised that we needed a product beyond spreadsheet for kind of managing our development slate.
Yeah.
So ITV comes up with ideas all the time, generates lots of ideas, pitches those ideas to various commercial broadcasters and broadcasters around the world.
Right.
We recognised that we needed a system to bring that data together so that we didn't the ideas didn't overlap with each other. So, for example, pitching the same idea to the same broadcaster twice would be a bad thing. We wanted to make sure that didn't happen. We also wanted to make sure we had some kind of protection around our ideas. So some claim to those ideas and evidence, if we had evidence that this actually was our idea and this is where it is. So some kind of audit trail in our system.
Right.
But our most recent and most significant and biggest use is with a system called Spot, named by myself.
Oh, great.
It stands for Single Point of Truth. We use it as our global risk system, our global risk platform, and we implemented it during COVID. We recognised that we had lots of unstructured data within ITV that we really needed to scrutinise. So we had data kind of in Google Sheets, in spreadsheets, we had it in email, in people's heads. As a global business, that makes anywhere between 400 and 500 productions in any given day, over any given day. We recognised that we needed a better place to put all of our data into a single system.
Single place,
so that our leadership could understand where our shows are being made, what budgets were, how many crew were on a show, on a shoot, and where they were around the world. So
how on earth you found Zoho then, right? Because that's the problem which screams of document management system, an office suite which we don't have to mention, whatever. So how come you found Zoho?
Well, we wanted to twin our data structures with our group risk workflow. So we wanted to bring data into our platform, but then add things like risk values, mitigating facts, mark up comments so that people could kind of adjust what they're planning to do in their shoot. So, for example, you would say, this is a high-risk production because you're going to use firearms. You would say,
what could go wrong, right?
What could go wrong? But you could write. Our risk team could write as a mitigating factor. Don't use the firearms, and then your risk profile goes from high to low. Wanted to surface that all in one system. So kind of your average document management system or your average other system doesn't really work for this kind of use case. We also understood that we could go into the SaaS market and see things that might have that kind of 80-20 rule. So it might work 80% of the time, 20% not. But we knew very kind of tightly what our requirements were, kind of what we wanted to do. We had very strong leadership that were very clear on what they wanted to achieve from a system.
That's always super, super valuable when a business agrees on requirements and knows what they are.
And they also
those are kind of like moving, like slow moving, whatever. It's quicksand, it's quick, right? Slow moving, slow sand. And that never helps to select the right software. So that's great news. So
that was it. It was really great to have that kind of that leadership stakeholder buy-in.
That's great too.
They also had very fast development expectations. Given it was COVID and given that we needed to make decisions by the minute, recognised that we needed to have a product up and running very quickly. So that sort of got us into kind of the low code kind of tool set. We knew that we could do a little bit of development. So we used, we got our head around Delhi very quickly. Had a service partner help us implement our technology. But it also meant because we were using low code, we were able to build a kind of an MVP product within about 6 or 7 weeks.
That's great.
So we had a product ready to go. I mean, there was a change management project that went afterwards, which took a longer time to actually roll out the technology. I think as any technology requires. But we were able to get to our MVP and our original product very quickly. That's why we went with low code. We knew our requirements. We knew that it wasn't going to be the most complex software in the world that required a large development team, and we knew that we could do it in a kind of a structured way using low code. So that's how we came across Zoho.
And then you used a waves approach or MVP. You mentioned that. You used agile capabilities to get there, or?
I think the beauty of kind of low code actually is that you can kind of shift your approach based on the needs of the needs and the abilities of the team that are making the tool. For us, for this technology, we've been using a kind of an agile approach, little bit of Scrum as well in there with kind of a product manager and a team and stuff around it. But mainly, we've been looking at kind of that agile and Scrum approach to deliver our technology. Just enables that agility that we need.
That's great. Yeah. How hard was it for you to come up to speed with the tool? How long did it take?
Not very long to learn the tool, but ITV is a large multinational business. It operates in 13 countries. It's got 16 different production labels or production businesses. So the change management project was quite vast, and going around to every single one, just logistically, based on time, it took a long time. So the change management was longer than the actual development cycle.
Oh, interesting.
But just the time to get onto calls with the different countries, different territories, talk about the why, because the why is probably the most important piece of any change management project, making sure they accept the why.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Well, exactly. But also understand the why, understand that there was a mandate from leadership to implement this technology, and then explain how it was going to be used. Now, the system isn't the most complex system in the world, like I've already said. So actually, it is quite intuitive, filling in forms and boxes, but we did have that piece of like learning how to use it. But it was a kind of a very quick, for all of our users, it was a very quick kind of uptake and ability to get on and start using the technology in the way that we needed to.
Great. So rollout took longer because of the setup, international and so on, than building it. But let's talk a little bit, because the biggest concern selecting a low-code, no-code tool is I have to build something, right? You realize the standard software is not going to do it. You have to build something. Did you have your own in-house developers for that, or did you learn that, or did you use also consultants? How did you get the automation that ITV needed?
Oh, that's good. That's a great question, Holger. We did use a Zoho reseller to help us provide some tech smarts to help us get up and running. But we also twinned them with our own kind of product teams with it in-house. What I've actually found with the technology is that the Village Group actually it sort of lends itself to our kind of more junior development employees, kind of those graduates perhaps who are coming through the system. They can get up and running very quickly with systems and build products, and it kind of excites them. The ability they can see the technology emerging quickly from simpler development really excites them and encourages them to get using. But we see that kind of learning curve with our kind of graduates and junior developers ramp up very quickly in terms of their lead scripts, and then it really is a good sort of stepping stone for them to go from kind of the low-code tools into the more complicated tools. But it means we don't need to bring in large amounts of developers, a big test and release and deployment teams as well. Actually, we've got a very, very small product team. And we get a bit of consultancy from Zoho's partners, but largely we do most things ourselves.
If I asked you, put the pistol on your chest and say, what is the ballpark number of men, months, years, FTEs you put in the system? What would you say?
2 FTEs, at a junior level.
For a year, basically, or?
For a year, yeah.
For a year.
Well, the products
is very reasonable,
the product's in a kind of a CSI we continue looking at it and moving it. So there's always new requirements. With the nature, particularly of like group risk, for example, is that there are new things that you need to monitor, check, work through. If you look at the geopolitical environment right now, you'll recognise that it's more important than ever for a company like ITV to know where its teams are around the world and make decisions very quickly on them. But also the kind of data that you might want to gather from those people, from our teams, might need to change. So we have people on the tools making those kind of changes, adjustments, speaking to the leadership, working through CSI, working out what area would go next product.
Great.
That's kind of our approach.
And at this point, you can say like everything which has to do with production inside of ITV is in the system.
Yes.
Yes. All digital exhaust, digital After Effects are there. There's a single repository, spot, right? Single point of truth, right? So
all of our productions all of our production data is in there. So that our group risk teams and our leadership teams can make decisions based on that data. Is every single thing in there? I think we can get to a 99% accuracy there because we've got leadership management. But we are asking our teams to enter the data that we need. So there is that reliance. There is a mandate. Everything should be in there.
Right, very good. then there's always the point to get enough functionality, and often end-user organizations think, now we're done. But the reality of software is you're never done.
No,
so do you have a roadmap of what is coming next after you've done this? Any plans?
No, not really with our Zoho application. We had, like I said, we had a continual cycle of CSI. It's continual change because of the reasons I just mentioned. I think with ITV, what we'll be looking at is actually additional products that we could build in using the creator toolset. So I feel like this journey over the last sort of 5 years, and particularly with Spot, we've learned so much. We've learned about the power of low code, what you can do with it. We understand it a lot better. You know, integrations into tools like analytics to create dashboards. If you walk into ITV, you'll see some of our analytic dashboards around on screens around the building, showing how many shows are in production.
Nice.
You know, stuff like that around there. So we've learned so much that actually, you know, there are other workflows and processes that are happening in our production business that might lend themselves to kind of a low-code kind of tool. So that's kind of the future of the technology for us.
So you're sitting on the peak and looking what the next peaks might be to climb, given that you know how to climb up and what the tool set can do. That's a great position to be in. Excellent. If you go back in the 5 years, what would you give to another peer saying, I'm looking at low-code, I'm looking at Zoho. What would be the 3 tips you would give them? And they say, hey, help me out here. You've been doing this.
Well, I think it's an interesting question. I think the implementation and the tooling has been a success, and it's been adopted successfully within ITV. It's hard to really go back and be like, what could be done completely better? But if I was going to
you would do it again, right?
If I was going to do it out, I think or any budding low-code implementer, what would I suggest? I'd say for us, you know, the real key to our success has been that leadership support and mandate. Make sure they understand that, you know, that they understand the why, and that they're able to kind of articulate that to people who need to understand
leadership support.
Leadership support, absolutely the number one thing, I think. The second thing I think would be governance. So, I mean, we obviously had a implementation very quickly, and we got to a technology very quickly. But the thing about low code is it's not completely complicated to make changes. But the question you really need to ask yourself is, just because you can change something, should you? Should
Good
you?
one.
And I think, you know, looking back, I think, you know, we would put in place a kind of a governance layer with a bit more detail that would have enhanced our kind of release cycles to make sure that everybody who needed to know was completely on top of any changes before we made that changing. It is tempting just to throw something in where we go. And the third thing I would say to anybody who wants to have a go with low code, I would say that, you know, it's a really fun thing to get started with. You know, it's quite excited just to build these products, and like I said, they do kind of emerge quite quickly with the tooling. I would say go for it. You know, get into it, cut your feet with it, get your feet wet, and don't be brave. I mean, Zoho actually are really great with us in terms of kind of our support and training and that sort of thing. So yeah, I would just say go for it. See how far you can get.
So it was executive leadership. It was, well, you didn't say know the requirements. I would kind of like finagle that in there. Go for it. What was the second one?
Governance.
Governance. Very English answer. Governance is so important. Governance. Okay, let's go for it. Go on governance and go for it, right? G to G.
2 options, yes.
Okay, excellent. In the implementation, what was like a critical moment? Right? It might have been getting requirements, getting the milestone done, having a feature delivered from Zoho. What would you say were the
well, I think we had
dramatic moments? If you would produce this as a soap opera or as a series, right? What would be the cliffhanger that we would do like for the first half?
Well, I think we definitely had the kind of the MVP moment where the technology emerged and it worked in a way that, you know, we wanted it to. So we had that kind of first moment where we were on the tool for the first time and we were able to see that yes, it can do what we need it to do. And do you want to give you a sense of relief that it could do what we wanted it to do?
I know that exactly. I have grey hair for that, right? You have no hair for that. But the moment I say, this is the right decision, this can do what we want it to do, that's huge.
That was an absolute kind of piece for us. I think
taking the cliffhanger away, right? Can they do it? Will they do it? Stay tuned for next week.
The MVP, the MVP was definitely that kind of unveiling moment of like, you know, that was really excited about that. I think in terms of our cliffhanger moment, I'd probably say actually the unveiling of the tool to the sort of leadership.
Yeah.
So the unveiling tool to the leadership, they sort of look at it, they go, okay, cool, that does do what we want, but that kind of almost...
This is not what we wanted.
It didn't happen in my case, fortunately, they were delighted.
Yeah, but that's the suspense moment, right? So from a dramaturgical perspective,
the suspense moment, I think, the unveiling of the product to our leadership, for them to go, that's brilliant, that's what we want, but actually, could you also do this?
Yeah.
And could you add that? And could you add the other? And I was kind of going,
The appetite comes meeting. Well, we want to do this first, right? Yeah. Okay. Good. Excellent.
So that was kind of our like cliffhanger, kind of end of the showpiece. And then I think kind of the sequel in the franchise would be much more about kind of that continual service improvement, trying to get that right. And the kind of challenges of taking a product that is established, that works, that the team are kind of happy to use, and then trying to make it better. And we've done things like integrate with the Google Analytics tool for dashboarding that I think I've already mentioned. We've also done some really cool stuff with our development tooling, which I mentioned earlier, around integrating into AWS, so we can surface videos and media into our development data.
Very good.
And that would be a great kind of second part.
Okay, that's good that there's more things to do. You mentioned that the rollout took longer than the building, right? Because of different production companies, different countries, and so on. Any tips, tricks you would say there? I'll give you an example, right? Never go to my home country, to Germany, to roll out Europe, right? Because you're going to take a long, long time. Go to somebody who's ready to compromise, like the Netherlands or Belgium, right? Who know they're little countries, not everything will be done for them, and you get some success under the belt. I'll give you an example, right? So, what would you say from your ITV experience, like how to roll out internationally with different franchises, subsidiaries, corporate holdings?
I think be prepared to listen, be prepared to understand them. I think we did actually take the approach that you talked about. We sort of found those friendlies first, and sort of went to those production companies first. And definitely those countries that we felt more confident with kind of the English language were probably our first adopters of the tooling.
Did you offer it in more language than English, or everybody speaks English?
No. For our group risk, profile, everyone we asked them to input the data in English. That's not because the system couldn't do different languages. No. It was because our group risk team.
But it also saves you time. Yeah, of course. But the Zoho can do multilingual, right? Humans can do multilingual, right? So the question is, do you have to, right? So
that's it.
Are you implementing in France?
Yes.
You need to do French in France.
Well, I think they respond in French.
Okay. Canada, same thing, right? You must be multilingual in Canada. You can't roll out a system without even not French, but Québécois. Yeah, but okay, I don't know. I don't want to. You don't get grey hair about it. Okay.
But we did about it. We kind of hit those kind of friendlies first, and then sort of win them. I think in terms of, again, if you're looking for advice around how the change management process went, I think have a plan. Yeah. Have a strategy, explain what the technology is going to do and why that's going to benefit both the production team, for them to have a slate of productions in one place and a dashboard about who's where is as useful to them as it is to our kind of central leadership teams. Explain the why, explain what is going to benefit them, and explain why it needs to be done. Fortunately, like I said, we had that leadership thing, that was cool, but we did. We did kind of that rollout plan around those people that were more friendly, that we knew, and then sort of went to the more harder territories, like the more complicated language barrier countries, kind of in the latter phases when we had a real slick and a real momentum with our kind of change management project.
Yeah, if these guys are doing it, you have to do it too, right? If these guys can do it, I can do it.
That's it. The other thing was actually just, as part of the change management process, to listen, I don't mention that, but also sort of maintain a kind of backlog. Right. So lots of people might are asking for the same sort of thing. So we were able to put together a backlog, join up where people have asked for the same sort of thing, and then build a kind of an internal product roadmap for this tool going forward. And then we were able to make some of those changes sort of after in sort of latter phases, and just to kind of encourage and enhance kind of the experience of our users. And that was all because of that change management approach. But I would say, for us, getting that plan, getting the strategy right is important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very important. But to keep a backlog and building the trust that if it's not there, it's going to be built, and it's transparent what's going to be built when, and to expect it. I think that's one of the golden rules in rolling things out internationally or in different divisions, different areas. That it's not like the system stuffed down the throat from the top because leadership wants it or whatever, or it only fits for the UK and doesn't fit for the rest of the world, or if you run two things, you can run those. Very interesting.
That was it. There are lots of things actually, were simple configuration things that were able to do quite quickly. It was making sure that it worked for everybody.
Right. Anything we forgot which should be interesting, worth mentioning about what you guys have done with Zoho?
I don't think so.
Yeah? Well, if we exhausted here, thank you. It's super interesting always to hear about low-code projects and what kind of difference they can do, automating something you will never have standard software to do, right? And I cover low-code tools as an analyst, and it's always about 3 scenarios: extend. So applications, well, you're not using them, so you don't have to extend them. It's to integrate them. You're doing some of that, and then it's to build something which nobody will build for you. Like, how would you call it? A risk assessment system for media companies.
Yeah, a group risk system, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Well, thank you for telling the story. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Holger.